They say Nigeria is too rich to be poor and too poor to be rich. Why has the country stagnated on the path towards development? Listen to The Conduit on Vision FM 92.1 Abuja every Thursday at 9 a.m. as we explore issues around illicit financial flows in Nigeria, government's regulatory and policy frameworks, and offer practical recommendations to addressing the economic problem. The Conduit is powered by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from Trust Africa.
2 minutes gone down 9 o'clock. So good to have you this Thursday morning on the program, The Conduit. The Conduit is a program sponsored by the Center for Democracy and Development in support with Trust Africa. And today, changing the culture of illicit financial flows with focus on Upright for Nigeria campaign is our focus today. I don't know if you've ever gotten to know something about strengthening citizens' resistance against prevalence of corruption. That has to do with a Scrap C project initiative. Is actually in relation to illicit financial flows and financial control. You know, there is a convergent opinion among Nigerians and within the international community that corruption is endemic and pervasive in Nigeria, which has assumed a frightening dimension in the country. The latest corruption percentage and perception index, that's CPI, released by Transparency International TI, scored Nigeria 28 out of 100 and placed it at 148th position out of 180 countries surveyed. This was a marked regression compared to 2016 ranking when the country scored 27 out of 100 and ranked 136th. This report simply shows that the administration is not progressing in its commitment to the anti-corruption fight. This was not in tandem with President Buhari's pledge to have zero tolerance against corruption. Besides fighting corruption, he also assured Nigerians that all stolen assets will be recovered and utilized to develop the country. However, the high level of corruption, including the illicit financial flow, has become a clog in the wheel of progress of Nigeria's development. And the need to address this problem informed the formation of Upright for Nigeria campaign, which is driven by the coalition of civil society organizations. And this approach is designed to challenge the current beliefs, social norms, and attitude that aid corruption in the country, with a view to effect social change through bottom to top approach. And today's resource person, we have Newton Oshemaye. He is Scrap C Project Manager, Action Aid Nigeria. Glad to have you on the program this morning.
My pleasure.
Okay, we'll just hit the discussion. We're talking about Upright for Nigeria campaign. What is it? What's it about? And why the Upright for Nigeria campaign?
Okay. We just want to quickly follow a positive trend in our campaign by saying that when Nigerians are upright, there will be low level of corruption. When Nigerians are upright, there will be low level of money laundering. When Nigerians are upright, misinvoicing will be reduced. When Nigerians are upright, trafficking will be reduced. When Nigerians are upright, drug abuse and drug cartelism, if you like, will be reduced. And if you see all that I've mentioned now, they are all connected to illicit financial flow. So to be upright means to stand for a country for the better. To be upright means to stand for the country where public services are properly delivered to the citizens of the country. So that is the concept of Upright for Nigeria.
Okay, is there a particular step you're taking to actually make sure Nigerians are upright? Because if you ask a normal Nigerian, they'll tell you they're upright.
Yeah, the steps we've taken so far, it is not different from steps that others have taken. We might just improve on those approaches that others have used before. One of them is a very campaign that we are launching across the 6 states where Scrap C is presently implemented. So that campaign is going on right now. We had the media launch in Lagos. We had another one in Kano yesterday, and there's another one scheduled for Enugu, and subsequent states like Akwa Ibom, FCT, Kaduna, and Jigawan and Bauchi will also follow very soon, just to sensitize the people that yes, we can be upright for Nigeria. Because the popular saying, all the places we've been to, is that in the beginning it was not so. So we want to reverse the trend. We want to reverse the understanding of the people, as in where we were before, when things were not missing in our country, where we were before the perception became so bad for the country, where we were before when people can attend free education, where we were before where people can go to hospitals and have the best health facilities, where we were before where we can ply good roads in Nigeria, where we were before when people can, the life expectancy was better off. So this is just the steps we are taking right now. Sensitization is one of the steps that we are taking. They are going to be training, media training, also helping the media to change the narratives of how to report the ease and cost of corruption in Nigeria.
Okay, but what's the assurance that we can actually get back to this level? This is where we were before. What's the assurance?
What one?
The assurance that we can get back to where we were before.
The assurance actually is about the people. It's about the people. Once we can change the mindset of the people, I'm very sure that to a large extent we'll come back to where we were, which was better off. Until that mindset change, there will be a problem. Also, connected to that is the level of poverty. The more we begin to sensitize our people, we also work with policymakers to address the issue of poverty in the country. Because the last report by ActionAid, there is a strong correlation between corruption and poverty in the country. So we want to look it from that perspective.
Are there plans for empowerment and all of that? Because when you talk about poverty, at least you need to empower somebody.
The kind of empowerment we will be giving might not just be the financial empowerment. For instance, I think the government is doing some empowerment program, like the Empower program, the school feeding program. These are all empowerment programs. We can complement that with the monitoring we'll be doing to such projects, whether they are effective or not. We can also complement that by the kind of campaign we're going to launch to sensitize the people and completely change their mindset, where we'll have a country or a society where people are averse to corruption.
Okay, talking about financial implications and all of that, is this put into consideration for all these projects, sponsorship, all of that, or you need that, like you have plans for financial empowerment for these people?
We don't do, the project is not designed to financially empower people. We want to actually empower people. Even if you empower people financially and they lack the knowledge, they lack what to do with it, of course those finances will be wasted.
Because that's where information comes in.
Exactly, it's information empowerment. We want to actually re-engineer, because it's worrisome when I vote somebody to power. The reason why I'm casting my votes, or the reason why I'm giving my mandate to somebody, is that the person gets to power and begin to satisfy my social expectation, which of course is depressing in Nigeria. That the reason why people are voted into power, not because they want to provide, as the constitution also directs, provide the good things, the public goods and services that the citizens need, but just to satisfy some clauses, some clusters of people, maybe within the family frame and all that. So that social expectation is also, we need to begin to campaign against that. The expectation of somebody who is going to House of Assembly or National Assembly is to make law. It's not to get money, financial money, and bring money to the country and begin to the state or to the community and begin to share with people or to enrich himself. If somebody is becoming president, he's a president because he wants to serve the people, not the minute people that we have in our mind. So when you send people to power, what they do is that, oh, you are there, oh, don't forget your people. It's time for us to get our national
That's
cake.
the normal
It's an
mentality,
abuse.
yes.
Yeah.
It's the normal mindset.
Yes.
We're talking about this awareness right now. To what extent will people be able to probe the government or probe the leaders they actually put in there? Because it's like sometimes we Nigerians are not aware of our rights. We don't know we can actually tell these leaders that hold them accountable for these offices. To what extent will this awareness actually help us?
Yes, we're going to do a lot about this awareness, because even some events we had in some states, we discovered that a good number of Nigerians don't actually read. I had events in Kogi State and in Lagos State, and in the process of that event, I asked a simple question: how many of us in this place have seen the Nigerian Constitution? To my surprise, nobody. Only a few. I mean, the Nigerian Constitution, the document by which we are governed. Nobody has read it. You know, how many of us have seen the 2018, 2017 budget as a there? Nobody could say I have seen such budget. So, on what basis do you want to hold government accountable? You can only hold government accountable when you are properly informed. You can only hold government accountable when you know the details of the document that actually governs you. For instance, the Constitution. And we're also going to government side to also appeal to the government that there must be effective implementation of the FOI Act.
Okay, we'll
That
get to
people,
the FY, yes.
that people should not be denied of information, even the few that can make attempts to ask questions. They should not be denied of the information. So government must comply. It's not just about putting laws and acts and bills and whatever in place. It's about the implementation to the letter. That is very important for people.
All right. 2019 is actually around the corner as regards the election, and still yet corruption seems to thrive in a whole lot of sectors in the country. And the country's resources seems to still be taken out across borders and all of that. Is there in any way that you think maybe the presidency should be disappointed over the corruption perception index?
Well, I think I was on air on this before. The corruption perception index is an index.
Okay.
You know, sorry, it's a perception. So, perception actually is not meant to ruin you. Perception is actually meant to tease out some of your weaknesses so that you can use those weaknesses to address the situation. For instance, in that last report, one thing was key. The freedom of information was a vital index that they use in judging Nigeria to still be at that level that we were. Then there were other things that they look at that Nigerian government is not fully implemented. So when you have perception does not necessarily mean, oh, it's as bad as that. Perception is just help you build your system, do those things that ordinarily you have not done in the past, so that you can grow along the ladder. But I don't think it's a complete, it's a fatal thing to have a perception like that.
Alright, this Upright for Nigeria is among the many platforms that actually exist or have risen up to fight corruption. What's convincing that this fight will actually be moved forward? Okay,
yes, we say that the Upright Nigeria, the SCAPC project, is actually quite innovative. Innovative in the sense that development experts have looked at how to fight corruption. The first conception was to look at strengthening systems and sanctions, and that is working with the supply side alone. And it has been the approach that what normally plays out is arrest the alleged criminal, maybe take the money away from him, send him to jail, and it ends there. So the man you send to jail and he has all his money in his account, he can finish the terms and still come back to his money and enjoy his wealth.
Yes.
Then two, the man that you also send to jail, if you don't rip him off of his wealth, he can also use that wealth to fight you. That's why cases are delayed in court, for instance in Nigeria, because the man has enough resources on his side that he has stolen to also contest these cases in court. That is one side. Then there was another idea or another school of thought that no, okay, let's work from the demand side and improve on how we encourage citizens to hold government accountable. That was also done. It was also from another angle, but that was not sufficiently giving us the anti-corruption outcome that we expected. But this time around, we want to look for a collective action. Collective action means both the private sector in the society, the government in the society, and the citizens can come to the round table and decide the future of a country in terms of how to fight corruption. and that is the line that we are treading right now.
Okay, Scrap C projects, let's go there. That's strengthening citizens' resistance against prevalence of corruption. I'll just call it scrap corruption.
That's right.
That's the general idea right here.
Okay.
Okay, you've already mentioned that 6 states have already been selected. You said something about
That's
6
right.
states earlier. What's the determination for the states you actually picked? What made them worth picking?
Well, it was actually decided along the zoning. We're looking at the south-south, the southwest, the southwest, the southeast, the central, northeast, and northwest. In northwest, we're working with 2 states, Kaduna and Conduit, and by extension, Jigawa. In the northeast, we are working in Borno State. Of course, you know the peculiar situation of Borno State, the humanitarian services we are doing there. Then in southwest, we're working in Lagos. Of course, you know the commercial hub in Lagos also is a good evidence to show that where you have high level of business activities, there is also, most often than not, high risk
Level of corruption. Okay.
So the same thing applies to Kano. Then in the southeast, we are looking at Enugu. In the south side, we are looking at Akwa Ibom. Of course, you know Akwa Ibom, you have this oil big shop there that are working in Akwa Ibom. So these are some of the things that the criteria that we looked at in terms of zoning. So it was evenly spread across the country. We are piloting this particular project. I'm very sure if this project is successful in this stage, we'll escalate.
Okay, you said something about big shots, and earlier you mentioned government, private sector, and the citizens. Is this covering to the grassroots?
Yes, definitely.
Then coming to the grassroots, do you have any form of awareness that cuts across language barriers?
Exactly, we're doing that. We are translating most of our campaign in different languages.
Oh, how about the Constitution also, so at least someone can understand?
Well, the Constitution is
Maybe
not
you
within
could
our
get to that
purview
level.
right now. It's not
Okay.
within our purview. But however, we are doing as much as possible in some of our engagements that we also encourage people, especially the elites, to read the Constitution and know what their rights are.
Okay, what are the strategies for Upright Nigeria? What are you using in order to actually strengthen citizens' resistance against prevalence of corruption, and also changing social norms, beliefs, and attitudes that aid corruption in the country?
Basically, we are using the media strategies there, media engagements. That one is there. We are also doing a lot of training also to build the capacity of people, as well as training people on the use of the FOI, for instance. We're also training media on how to change the narratives of corruption, because the report has always been, for instance, Jolly Nyame stole 1 point something billion. So the question that development expert will ask is, if he has stolen 1.6 billion and been convicted, and so what? The so what answer can only come if the money that he has stolen will be repatriated to the people of Adamawa. Is it Adamawa now? To the people of Adamawa. And the people of Adamawa are also benefiting from the money that was repatriated or that was recovered from the man who has stolen it. So I think the media strategy, or the communication strategy, if you like, the training also that we are doing, and the awareness campaign, these are the 3 strong strategies we are using to reach out to people about scraps.
All right. That's the strategies, the media engagement. Then the project, will it lapse, or it's a continuous project irrespective of administration?
Well, it's actually designed to last for 5 years. We've done 1 year. We still have 4 years to go.
What's
And,
the progress for this 1 year? I mean, I'm curious.
Yeah, the progress, basically, we did some basic analysis in the first 1 year. For instance, we had this political economy analysis, and the key for that, the outcome of the analysis was that there is still huge corruption in the education sector, there's still huge corruption in the health sector, there's still huge corruption in the power sector, and there's huge corruption in tax administration. So these are the 3 sectors we actually looked at, and these 3 sectors, the report will actually guide the way we approach our delivery in this second third, fourth year.
Is it a thing of concern to the normal citizen, irrespective of your approach to the way you tackle it? You said power, works, education, tax, and all that. Is it a thing of concern to me?
Education is a great concern for people of Nigeria. Like I mentioned to you, you know the level of education, especially in the north, that it's poor. and also the girls' education thing is an issue everywhere. So I think it's key. But apart from that, what we are looking at is what are the policies that government is actually designing to strengthen the education sector. If those policies are bad, automatically the outcomes will be bad. And two, when policies are designed, when policies are implemented, when policies are evaluated, are the citizens actually carried along, as in allowing the citizens to make their input in these policies? These are some of the things we'll be looking at. So in empowerment, we are going to encourage citizens that they need to hold government to accountable by asking government to give them the space to make their input in every implementation that affects their life. Because the brunt of every bad implementation affects their life as citizens.
Okay, what's your opinion on getting to instill positive values, maybe integrity, honesty, transparency, and hard work? How well will it change the current corruption narratives in the country?
Well, we're also working with religious bodies, and whether you like it or not, these are some of the people or institutions, if you like, that can actually instill these values. Because they meet with the people regularly, maybe every Sunday or so, to teach the people the values that can keep humanity. For instance, we have a brochure we just designed looking at the Islamic perspective of corruption, and also another one, the Christian perspective of corruption. These, what we call it, handbills will be shared across the country for people who want to.
Okay, I think we'll talk a bit more on that, their perception of corruption. But that will be right after this break. And once we come back from this break, the phone lines will be open just in case you want to call in and make a contribution. We happen to be focusing on Upright for Nigeria campaign. But my concern is to what extent can different platforms help to fight corruption in this country? We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.
They say Nigeria is too rich to be poor and too poor to be rich. Why has the country stagnated on the path towards development? Listen to The Conduit on Vision FM 92.1 Abuja every Thursday at 9 a.m. as we explore issues around illicit financial flows in Nigeria, government's regulatory and policy frameworks, and offer practical recommendations to addressing the economic problem. The Conduit is powered by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from Trust Africa.
It's good to have you back. This is The Conduit right here, 92.1 Vision FM. And my name is Omleha Ode. We have Newton Oshimaye. He is Scrap C Project Manager, Action Aid Nigeria. And we happen to be focusing on Upright for Nigeria campaign. And my concern is to what extent can different platforms help to fight corruption? Yes, the country is fighting corruption. You and I are fighting corruption. But platforms, CSOs, to what extent can they actually help to fight corruption in the country? The phone numbers are 080-911-27352 or 08025140627. You could also send a message to 33538 or to the WhatsApp number, which is 07086982677. To what extent can different platforms, CSOs, help to fight corruption? That's my question for you. Focus on Upright for Nigeria campaign. An Upright for Nigeria campaign happens to be covering different aspects of society. Yes, it's involving the government, involving the private sector, and also involving citizens. Scrap C is strengthening citizens' resistance against the prevalence of corruption. Okay, back to our resource person, Mr. Newton Oshimaye. I said we're going to talk about the idea of the religious and traditional bodies or that you're using right now in partnership to help with this corruption fight. What's the Islamic model you mentioned and the Christian model? What's their perception towards corruption?
About it. Our founding fathers, it's like they foresaw what was going to happen in the world, and the inspiration they got was to actually have a better society. So if you look at the religious perspective, the Christian perspective per se, You know, they are all Bible scriptures that actually um, instruct people, if you like, not to be corrupt, instruct people about justice, instruct people about bribery, instruct people about immorality and all that. If you go to the Islamic perspective, the same thing applies. So what it means is that it's not that these things are not there, but people are just averse to the things that are good. They are just averse to the things that ordinarily will change the society for them, because the issue of greed, the issue of godfatherism, and the issue of there is another term, gratification, has completely shrouded the perspective of the religious perspective of anti-corruption, because people just want to believe they don't know about it, but it's not correct. But I expect that even religious leaders will continue to preach these things in our pulpit. It's not just all about prosperity. It's not just all about all the kind of things you hear on pulpit. It's about the integrity of people. It's about the honesty of people. It's about transparency of people within the society. The government you are talking about is made up of the citizens. The private sector is made up of the citizens, and the non-state actors is made up of the citizens. So if we all change our different perspective from what we hear in our religious sect, of course it will be a better country for us.
Okay, what's the place of the freedom of information in this fight against corruption?
Well, I think that since that act or that bill was passed into an act, the effective implementation has not actually played out the way it should, because people make requests, you don't get requests, because it's like the ministry, the MDAs are not prepared for what the FOI is trying to empower people to do. But we think that the people should not be discouraged as far as that is an act and it is backed by the constitution of our country. It's a document that they must use effectively against the government or to have a better society. So we're going to have this training, most especially with the media, on how to actually apply, make requests of, use the FOI to make requests for information.
That's for the public to assess.
Yes, for the public to assess. So if you cannot access it for some reasons, we will look at the act again and see whether those ministries, agencies, and departments have actually followed the process that they should follow to respond to you if they cannot reach out to you to the speculated time.
But is that okay? But is there a form of security for or protection again, maybe over people that get to speak up, people that get to air out their opinions and all of that? Is there a form of protection? Because I know sometimes citizens get scared. You need a bold.
That's correct. Like Fela would say that we no one die.
Mm-hmm,
you
true.
know what I'm saying? We no one die, and that fear is what the political juggernaut, or what you would call them. That is what they will always capitalize on most of the time to use against the people. No, these people will not say anything. These people are afraid. They won't come out. Even if they protest, the protest will not last for 6 hours. So let's sustain the status quo. So I think we must come out. We must be dogged about it. That this is a right. It's not something that that is a privilege that is given to us. It's a right enshrined in the Constitution.
What benefits actually exist, will you say, what benefits will you point out for me as regards citizens' benefit of this Upright for Nigeria fight?
Oh, good. If all the dividends or all the outcomes of Upright Nigeria are seen in the country to be a better society, first and foremost, I wouldn't know how you would feel as a person if you get to an hospital, you get the right drug, you get the right doctor to speak to you, and you get your prescription, and you walk out of the hospital, you are not paying anything. I don't know how you would feel as a citizen right now that your mother no longer call you from the village to say, oh, my daughter sent me money from Abuja because I want to go and buy a drug. Rather, you just tell her the hospital is so and so place. Go to the hospital and they will give you drug, and she access it. I don't know how you will feel as in Nigeria that you will drive from here to Kogi State on a very clean road where you will not have potholes that are killing people every day. I don't know how you will feel as a Nigeria that as a Nigerian citizen that you go to your house, the power is like forever. It's not blinking at all. I don't know how you will feel as a Nigerian that your children, they just go to school. You don't need to cough out close to 500,000 as some families are doing now for your children to go to the university. How much did I pay to go to the university? But as we speak now, because of private universities that they've encouraged in the society, people pay as close as 1 point something billion to send their children to school. So for instance, if we go back to the public schools, fix them very well because there is no corruption in our society. We all are standing upright for our country, and our children can attend to one of the best universities in the country. It's joy for everybody. I think these are the great benefits that Nigerians can get from this campaign.
You know, it sounds interesting, and since you say you don't know how I feel, I actually feel good, but I don't know how Nigerians feel. And also, with your 1 year, that you said it's a 5-year project and you've achieved 1 year,
Yeah.
how has the reaction of people has been the acceptance of the project?
One thing that I think is pretty good for Nigerians hate corruption.
Okay, please permit me to take this call. We'll be right back to you. Hello, good morning. Okay, the world to call us back. The numbers are still 080-911-27-352 or 080-25-140627. Those are the numbers for you to call and be part of the program this morning. We're talking about Upright for Nigeria. A whole lot of CSOs have come up, and this is Upright for Nigeria right here. We have Scrap C, a project manager, in the studio, and different CSOs, different NGOs, different people coming up to fight against corruption and corruption concerns each and every one of us. Yes, we'll have the benefit if corruption is actually wiped off, or to an extent, because it seems like this corruption thing is, I don't know if there's any possibility of it being fully eradicated, as it is a global issue. But I don't know how you will also feel, like our resource person has asked, how you will feel if we go way back in time and education seems to be free. Maybe you get a job with a car attached to it and a house, something like that. It could be for the benefit of the fight against corruption. Okay, let's still get back to you on what you were talking about.
I think that Nigerians are actually not encouraging corruption per se. They hate corruption, but I think the understanding is missing. The understanding that the ills of corruption and the cost of corruption, people are not fully resonating with that, and that is why the reaction is still not strong. But if you know that it was as a result of corruption that you lost that newborn baby in the hospital, the reaction will be different. The reaction will not just be, oh, there were no drugs in the hospital, that was why I lost my baby, or the doctors were on strike, that was why I lost my baby. But when it's connected to corruption, that because the doctors were not paid, that even when the doctors were paid, they were in the hospital, there were no drugs to actually take care of that child, and eventually you lost that. If you can be connected to the issues around preventable diseases still killing people in Nigeria, I think there will be more reaction against corruption in Nigeria. So that is just the point I think is still lacking, and that is what Strapseed is trying to do, to actually sensitize people based on the ills of corruption and the cost of corruption in the society.
Okay, a bit to look at the government. They've actually had a whole lot of laws enacted and integrity systems. For them, they have built integrity systems. To what extent can all of these actually help with this fight?
Take that again.
That the government have laws that have been enacted. They might have built integrity systems. There are lots of agencies also that get to fight against corruption. To what extent can these also
I tell you what, laws are not forever. When you make laws to address a situation within a particular time, it is possible that in the future the situation might change. Once the situation changes, that is the work of the legislators, that is the work of the lawmakers. Once the situation changes, they've done that analysis. It's for them to review such laws. It's for them to review such acts, so that they can adapt. They can adapt with the current trend of what is happening in the society. That is still not happening in Nigeria. So it look as if the Nigerian government actually encourage some certain things that are happening in the country. I give you a very good instance. In the 1999 Constitution of security vote, it came from where? It came from the military. And in 1999, when the government saw that the security vote thing was going to benefit them, instead of removing such thing that is now a problem in most of the states, they didn't remove it. They left it there and said the security vote for for every governor, security vote for the president, and what have you. And the security vote, the more you give them the security vote, the more there is insecurity in the country. So what do you do with such situation? You need to come back to the drawing board and review your constitution or review your laws. So that has not happened. We might have plethora of laws, plethora of acts in the country that are wonderful, but what happens to implementation? I just give you an example of the FOI Act. A wonderful document that every country will be proud of. But here we are, how many years down the line, we are still struggling to implement the FOI Act effectively. So there's a gap between the design and implementation. And there's also a gap between the design implementation and the input of the society. Because what I'm not part of, it is difficult for me to run with it. Otherwise, it looks as if it is strange to me and you are forcing it through my throat. And that is the concept we are also bringing on board. That corruption is not Buhari administration fight. Corruption was not Goodluck's fight. Corruption was not Murtala Mohammed fight. Corruption should be our own fight, so that even when this government exceeds power, the issue of corruption, the issue of anti-corruption will still continue in the mind of the people, because it has become part of us. It does not affect the government, the people in government alone. It affects the citizens as well. And the larger population is actually with the people.